And you know what's funny now?
Right.
Once I've gone through this, now I don't need the chart because I know what the pattern is.
Gotcha.
I have an extra copy for him, but you probably got everything on it.
Yeah, I've kind of got like my, that's the way it works in my brain.
Yeah.
But thank you though. But yeah, once you start going through, you're like, oh,
That's
I
what
get
it is. Yeah.
Until we realized that we both fucked up somehow. Adam was right the whole time.
I'm Ron Skinner, and I've been working with Nadjiwan for over 30 years. Mark Marilanen and I met in college at Fanshawe College in London, Ontario, and I started working as his recording engineer. And we did a project with a band called Small Horse Stories, which was Mark's band from Thunder Bay. And Mark and I hit it off, and so then I started working with him on a regular basis. And we started recording the songs for his first album, and I didn't realize it was a project called Najwan. I just knew it was Mark with a bunch of songs. Working at Grant Avenue was really great. It sort of met all my expectations. The recording engineer and owner of the studio, Bob Deutsch, he's owned the studio forever, and he's worked so hard at keeping the legacy of that place alive. And the room and everything was exactly as I had hoped it would be. And working with Bob was exactly what I would hope it would be. It was laid back and fun and simple, easy, and quick. So we recorded the 5 songs in a couple of days, and so it met my expectations in every way. The beautiful MCI console, some vintage equipment, microphones that have been used in the studio for years, and then the vibe of the place is just great. It's the vibe of Grant Avenue Studio is just really great. It's laid back and everything you'd want from a recording studio.
Hi, I'm Mark Marilanen, and I'm the creator of the Nadjiwan project, which started about 1994 with our first album release called Brother that came out in 1995. That project was put together with Jeff Nelson Williams and Robin Ranger, we were the original trio of that particular band. And over the years, the band has evolved, and we've had many wonderful and talented musicians come and go. But in the past few years, we've had the same regular lineup of musicians. That's Jean-Paul DeRover, who's doing backing vocals and guitar, Alex Minay playing drums and percussion, Adam Gomori playing bass, and Brendan Pelche playing keyboards.
My name is Jean-Paul DeRover, and I've been recording with Nadjiwan since 2014, but performing as an acoustic and electric guitar player since about 2016. When I first heard that we were going to be recording at Grant Avenue Studio in Hamilton, I knew that it was a historic venue and studio, but I didn't really know exactly all of the accolades that were there. Just going in through the studio and looking at the walls and seeing all the records, some of which I grew up listening to, literally Raffi, stuff like that on the walls. But then also, the fact that a console was provided to help out with one of the Rheostatics albums that I fell in love with in my high school years. That was amazing to be able to be a part of a venue and a studio that has that kind of longevity and also just that history to it. To know that all these different people have been in that space, have been creative, and have developed their own music within those walls. It's pretty incredible. With Nadjiwan, we recorded 6 songs, and one of which was an original, which I think was probably the one I was most excited for, just because it was, wide open at that point. We can all do our own thing the way that we normally do without having to sort of pay an homage or a tribute to the existing song. No matter how much we change it, the song is still somebody else's song. So it's nice to be able to have something of our own that we can continue to, develop the way we want to. That being said, I think, growing up listening to a lot of heavier music, I think it was really exciting for me to be able to play Sober by Tool, just because I'd never done that before. A lot of my contemporaries and peers always were in really heavy bands playing a lot of Tool riffs and stuff like that, but never me. That was just never part of the equation. So it was nice to be able to finally say that I got to play Tool, and not only that, but it's recorded too. Another challenging song was The Cross. I mean, I think that's one of the interesting things about this project, is that there were some songs that might have been a bit challenging just because of the way that they were written. They're very simplistic, 2 chords, 3 chords, but some of those sections are just 2 chords repeated over and over again with not a lot of variety in terms of the song development. So that puts the onus on us to, how do we build that? How do we make that special? How do we make this section distinct from that one? And that's what I think is the most challenging, but also the most rewarding, because that allows us to do what we do best and make it our own. So a song like The Cross by Prince, very straightforward in terms of how it's written on paper, but it's how we develop it and what we do with it that makes it our own. For me, being a part of Nadjiwan is a really rewarding experience, because not only do I get to perform and record with incredibly talented individuals, but I also get to have all of these wonderful opportunities presented to me through these collaborations. And that's something that's very special to me, and I'm looking forward to continuing on developing these songs, getting to play them live, getting to work on new songs, playing them live. It's I hope it's a never-ending cycle.
Brian Wilson up in here.
I don't know. I was saying to Ron, we used to have a milestone set up. Yeah. I did like this one, but they invented these suits. I got what else?
It's so quiet, it just sounds like there's music playing in the room next door.
Yeah, there's a club right now. My name is Adam Gomori, and I've played bass with Nadjiwan since 2013.
I love that mic, but they're like $300.
When I first found out that we were recording at Grant Ave Studios, I was super excited, being that it has such a reputation, and I'm a huge fan of Daniel Lanois' work. After recording there, I would have to say that it fully lives up to its reputation. It was super, super professional, had a great atmosphere. It was like really conducive to creativity. Thinking back to when I first started playing bass, there are a few songs and bands that really stick out to me as inspirational. I'd have to go with Joy Division and Peter Hook and the song She's Lost Control. Also, I grew up with a lot of U2. Adam Clayton's work on Mysterious Ways, that bass line, really influential to me. The band Gang of Four, I would have to go with the song Not Great Men or Ether off of the album Entertainment. In fact, that whole album is great. Of the songs that we were recording, I would have to say that The Maker stood out to me as a favorite. I really feel like that song had a lot of room for us to put the Nadjiwan stamp on, the Nadjiwan feel. In terms of the most challenging song, I would have to say that Sober by Tool was the most challenging. It was super bass forward, a lot heavier than what we normally do. But by the end, I think we all really enjoyed playing it. And I know myself, I really enjoyed playing it by the end.
I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. I just want to hear that big... Yeah. I think there was a little wonkiness there, but I want to push that in.
Take for the drive on the road, and we won't take long to fill the playlist with our songs. Up the 469, keeping it chill and taking our time. Easy for it on the gas, except when it comes time to pass.
I put tape on it so I don't touch it, because someone says turn the snare up a lot. Okay, hi-hat.
My name is Alex Minay. I'm a drummer, and I've been playing with Mark Nadjiwan since roughly about 2006, or about 15 years. When Mark approached me about this record, I was very excited because, like everything else we've done together, it was a very interesting concept. Mark is very good at coming up with fascinating and different concepts, ways to sort of push people in different directions, way to move the band in different directions. They're typically not anything you would expect, but they're always different, they're always challenging, they're fun, and he keeps it interesting, which is why I believe he has a lot of longevity in his career. Because whereas a lot of people just kind of do the same thing over and over again, he is always changing it up. So that is something I enjoy about playing with him, and certainly in the case of this album, it was a fascinating concept because here we are doing an old school recording in an old school studio, using essentially technology that has been put into the has been put in the closet or the dustbin for many years, and everybody records with Pro Tools now and editors, and you can perfect everything to such a fine degree. But the way we were recording in this project to linear tape, single take, in one room all together, you get one shot to do it, and you have to edit a lot in your mind that you would not otherwise edit. And I thought it made a really great and compelling recording at the end of the day. Of the songs chosen for this album, I thought the most compelling track of the bunch was Exit by U2. The original is a great song. It's a well-written song. And when I heard Mark's pre-production demos, they were very exciting. I heard the potential in the track and in the version that he was doing. And so when we got into the studio, I thought everything came together exactly as I hoped it would. And afterwards, in retrospect, I think it was the most. In retrospect, I think it's a really great track, and I think, frankly, it's better than the original. But please don't tell U2 that. 5. The most challenging track for me was probably Sober by Tool. I do love metal. I grew up on a steady diet of Iron Maiden and other 80s metal, but as a player, my playing has always drifted in many other directions, and metal has been only a part of that. So I'm not really a metal player, and so to sort of merge the Nadjiwan sound with a real metal vibe was a challenge, and it was a good one. So I really enjoyed that, and I felt at the end I was able to dig in as a player and sort of capture that. But that was definitely the most challenging of the bunch. I like that one. I think I'd like to hear that back. Take a break. Yep.
Scary sound, 10 minutes on song, right? Sort of like the doing French for 10 minutes.
So when we found the studio, Grant Avenue, our producer Ron Skinner had suggested it, that it would be a great place to do the project. I was familiar with Grant Avenue. It was started in the 70s with the Lanois brothers and Bob Deutsch, and over the past 40 years, they've recorded a lot of great Canadian artists and international artists as well, such as U2 and Johnny Cash they've worked with, and a lot of great Canadian artists like Gordon Lightfoot and Bruce Cockburn, and a bunch of other great artists that have come through there. So it was a great opportunity to go there, and I didn't really have any expectations going into the studio. I knew we had a great band, a great crew, and Bob Deutsch was engineering, so I knew we'd be in good hands. When we arrived at Grant Avenue Studio, we were made to feel very welcome. It's in a old Edwardian house, built in the 1900s. So it's kind of has this sort of, homey sort of vibe, and it didn't really feel like a commercial studio. And that sort of space was very conducive to what we wanted to do. We felt very comfortable. And I didn't really have, like I said, expectations going into it. But I can say when we were done the project, if I had any, they definitely exceeded any expectations I would have had. So when I first started playing guitar, I was about maybe 16, 17. And as, all sort of novice musicians, that, your abilities are very limited at that time. So at the time I was learning guitar, I was maybe learning simple 3-chord songs. And I was playing music from artists that I admired, like U2 and REM. And a lot of their songs were, again, just simple 3 chords and the truth. So for this particular project, I kind of wanted to pay homage to those artists that influenced the Nadjiwan project. So I started with the simple sort of 3-chord songs. And that's predominantly what's on the entire recording. Are songs that only have 3 chords. But it's what you do with those 3 chords and how you present and how you perform them, I think, that kind of sells the song, as well as the overall sort of emotional content of what you're trying to do. So I started simple, wanted to go back to the 3-chord sort of arrangements and see what we could really do with those 3 chords.
The song that I was most interested in recording was probably the Prince song, "The Cross." That song, it has a big impact on me, and that album in particular, "Sign of the Times." It's sort of a watershed moment in my life when, music was always important to me, but at that moment it was like, oh, you can make these beautiful pop songs, but you can also have a message, right? And you can make small changes in the world with certain songs. Also, the vibe of, I wouldn't call it religion, but faith in the song, faith in something bigger than us. And so that song really sort of encapsulated for me a lot of what I was feeling at the time. And it's interesting because Prince wasn't known necessarily at that point as somebody who was writing that kind of material, but it really fit in with the other songs that I was really inspired by at the time. Bands like U2, REM, bands that sort of had a message beyond just, fun pop music.
So when we started the project, we had a list of various cover songs. I think we had like 10 songs to choose from. So from that list, we chose 5, all from sort of different artists back from the 80s and 90s, kind of like the era that, I grew up with in music and learning how to play guitar, as well as learning how to compose songs for my own project. So we did covers by U2, Prince, Tool, REM, and of course Daniel Lanois. Daniel Lanois was one of the founders, of course, of Grant Avenue in Hamilton. So we definitely wanted to pay homage to him as well.
I think honestly yesterday I worked my wrist in a little. When you go from guitar to bass.
Yeah. For me, like when you acoustics or electric.
Okay, right, yeah.
From the 416 to the 705, filled up the tank for the drive. On the road and we won't take long. Filled the playlist with our songs. Of the 400 to the 69, keeping it chill, taking our time. Easy foot on the gas, except when it comes time to pass. Should've had about third cup. Now we need to find a place to stop. We hit traffic and now construction, but it's only 10 minutes to the station. Up the 400 to the 69, keeping it chill, feeling fine. From the steel and land of talk, from the big smoke to the nickel and rock. Skoden, land of Skoden, land of Skoden. Yeah, yeah. Skoden, land of Skoden, land of Skoden.
So warm in this part.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's better.
Have a close-up.
There's one section where I hit real raunchy note, but edit.
How do we stop
The
this?
feel felt right.
I don't want to wreck Laura's footage.
Even if our form did drift, which
I
I don't
liked
think
it.
it
That,
did
that
in the end.
it did, but that's
Okay.
that's the vibe. It's more the vibe I want for this one because it's once Brendan adds his keys and
Yeah.
I have some other stuff I'm gonna add like like a wank on the guitar.
Gotcha.
Oh, the microphone's on. Yeah, catch that on the tape.
Get
Thank you.